With the 2024 NFL draft around the corner and all the hype that this year's quarterback class has been getting, it gave me a lot of flashbacks to 2021 because remember in 2021, they were gassing up that year's quarterback class. They were saying if you need a quarterback, 2021 is the year where you can get you one. I mean, you had Trevor Lawrence, who was generational. He had the generational label, similar to Caleb Williams. You had Zach Wilson, the crazy gunslinger out of BYU who rose to prominence during during the COVID season. You had Justin Fields, who had a really good career at Ohio State, great statistics, but how well was he going to be at the next level at going through his reads and making progressions in the NFL offense? How is his accuracy be? How's his accuracy going to be? Is he going to be a serviceable passer in the league? Is he going to be a good enough thrower to win you games? You know, and then Mac Jones, the guy who everybody knew would be decent if he was in a good situation. But if things went left, Mac Jones was going to go left too. But if things were going right for Mac Jones, you knew things were going to go right for Mac Jones' career. So I just wanted to take a couple of minutes just to look back at the 2021 quarterback class for that year's draft and check in with where these guys are at this point of their careers. Trevor Lawrence, Mr. Sunshine. Number one pick in the draft by Jacksonville. And although I don't think Trevor Lawrence has completely lived up to expectations, he definitely is really good. And out of all the quarterbacks in this class, he has been the most successful one, and that's been expected. You know, I was really concerned about Trevor Lawrence when Urban Meyer was running the show in Jacksonville and damn near ruined him. And then Doug Peterson came in year 2 and saved the day. And Trevor Lawrence, this past season, he was really good the first half. Like Jacksonville, people forget this, but they were in contention to get the 1 seed at the midway part of the 2023 season. And then once they played San Francisco coming off that bye and they got dismantled and then they got destroyed by the Ravens, that's when things really started to go left for Jacksonville and Trevor Lawrence. And I believe he actually got injured somewhere through that 49ers beatdown. But ultimately, when you look at Trevor Lawrence's career right now, he's a top 10 quarterback, and he's the reason the city of Jacksonville has hope for the future of the Jaguars. All right, and he's the reason why Jacksonville has anything to do. Like before Trevor Lawrence arrived in Jacksonville, there was no reason to go to Jacksonville games. And not a lot of people were showing up to the games. Even the year when Jacksonville went all the way to the AFC Championship with Blake Bortles, like, I don't think attendance was all that great that year. Ever since the Jags have gotten Trevor Lawrence and he's turned this team into a playoff contender, there's been way better turnout consistently at Jazz games. Hell, I got people that I graduated with from high school that I never saw go to a Jaguars game who are going to them every single week now ever since they've gotten Trevor Lawrence. Trevor Lawrence has changed this franchise. He is the reason why the city is behind this team. Before Trevor got there, nobody really cared about the Jaguars. It's like you knew Jacksonville had a team, but if you lived in the city, you didn't really have high expectations. And you never really grew to care too much about the quarterback. Nobody ever got behind Blake Bortles like they have Trevor Lawrence. The city has gotten behind Trevor. Not just this franchise and this organization, but the city of Jacksonville. I live in Jacksonville, so you're not talking to an outsider. Like, if Trevor Lawrence is bad, it's not going to be good for the city of Jacksonville. A lot of people aren't going to be happy, but Trevor Lawrence has been pretty good up to this point in his career, and he's Jacksonville's quarterback. At least to me, is he worth the extension right now? Depends on what he's asking. If he wants $50 million a year, he'll have to prove it. But if he wants 40 to 45, I'll give him that in a heartbeat. Like, the city loves Trevor. All right, and I believe Trevor Lawrence, he's going to end up being a great. All right. Does it piss you off how much you pay for your monthly phone bill? Why are you getting frustrated when our partner Mint Mobile has plans as low as $15 a month that give you unlimited talk and text on the nation's largest 5G network? Stop getting frustrated with how much you spend on your monthly phone bill and go to trymintmobile.com/JT Sports and description and pin comment down below to get access to premium wireless for only $15 a month. That's only $15 a month. Switching to Mint is easy. It only takes 15 minutes to do. If you're pissed off with how much you pay for your monthly phone bill, switch to Mint Mobile today and go to trymintmobile.com/JT Sports in description and pin comment down below to get premium wireless for only $15 a month. Stop getting upset with how much you spend on your monthly phone bill and switch to Mint Mobile today. I think Trevor Lawrence is going to come around and reach his potential eventually. Zach Wilson, on the other hand, you talk about somebody that had us all fooled. Well, maybe not everybody, but definitely had me fooled. And it wasn't the pro day that had me sold on Zach Wilson. You turn on that BYU film, this dude was giving me Patrick Mahomes syndrome. When I was watching him at BYU throw 60-yard touchdowns from the opposite hash, do y'all not know how difficult of a throw that is to make? I don't care what level, high school, middle school, Pop Warner, you throw a 60-yard touchdown from the opposite half? That's impressive. Not everybody can throw that, can make that kind of throw. And Zach Wilson was doing nothing but making these Madden kind of throws, during his final season at BYU. And when I looked at his pro day, I was thinking to myself, like, man, I know football isn't played in shorts and the tank top, but you mean to tell me he can't make these throws in the game? Zach Wilson had me fooled, man, fooled. And he's the reason why I'm so petrified to do these quarterback evaluations when it comes to players that have this kind of similar skill set, man, because he went to the New York Jets and it didn't take too long to find out that this guy couldn't play. Now, his offensive coordinator didn't do him any favors because the coach of the Green Bay Packers, his brother was hired to be the New York Jets offensive coordinator at that time when Robert Saleh first took the job because he followed them from San Francisco. And you know how it is when you're a defensive coach and you get a head coaching job and you come from San Francisco or you come from Los Angeles with the Rams, you got to take one of those assistants on offense because they're like a gold mine. And normally, when you get a Kyle Shanahan or Sean McVay assistant to be your coordinator, it works out for you. It didn't work out for Zach Wilson because his offensive coordinator, I don't know if it was Mike LaFleur or Matt LaFleur. I want to say it was Mike LaFleur, but don't quote me on that. I don't want to get it wrong and get the names mixed up. But LaFleur never was a big fan of Zach Wilson. All right, and it's well reported. It's out there that he didn't want Zach Wilson. But Robert Saleh and I guess the owner of the Jets said, well, you don't want Zach Wilson. You don't think he fits your offense. Well, we're going to draft him and you make it work. And the problem with LaFleur's offense and the reason why Zach Wilson struggled his first 2 seasons in New York before Nathaniel Hackett got there was because the offense was too complicated. Not just for Zach Wilson, but for the receivers too. It's like you had all kinds of different terminology for simplistic routes, like a slant route had all kinds of complicated wording, and there were all different kinds of things that you were supposed to do with your route based on how the defense was aligned, and it just was a lot of brain power for players. All right, and when you have an offense that has these kinds of different rules and all these different things that you have to do, it makes it hard for a guy like Zach Wilson to make the transition from college to the NFL, because in college, the wording, the terminology is shorter and it's easier to digest. And then you go to the NFL, you're getting plays like 70 Y2 scat, 92 8 banana, where you essentially have one play where you have like 5 different assignments in one play based on that wording, right? And you also complicate the process, because not only is it hard for a rookie quarterback to understand the plays and the terminology, but you're adding different wrinkles to the offense that he also needs to know. You know, what route the receiver's supposed to do when the defense is aligned like this, what checks he needs to make when the defense is aligned like that. And if you're going to have those kinds of wrinkles in your offense that you're going to give to a quarterback to have to know and have to understand, you got to give it to him in digestible amounts where he can consume it to a point that he can understand it and better grasp it. You feel me? You can't just feed somebody like 30 different assignments or 30 different adjustments for one play for a rookie quarterback. You know, you got to make things smaller for him to understand. The play, the wording of these plays is already long as hell. So you got to remember these long ass plays. Then you got to remember the 15 different adjustments that comes with the one play based on how the defense is aligned. Like, yeah, like, maybe the New York Jets should have really listened to that dude when he said that Zach Wilson wasn't the right quarterback, because that doesn't sound like an offense that just any quarterback can run. But that doesn't sound like an offense that a rookie quarterback can run at a high level. So it seems like Zach Wilson was blessed with a shitty offensive coordinator his early years in New York. And that ruined his development, because how can you develop if you can never get a good grasp of the offense? You know, it's like you got to learn the plays. Then you got to learn the small different adjustments. And the offensive coordinator, LaFleur's brother at the time, where they both are brothers, but he didn't do a good job of helping Zach Wilson develop. You know, he just gave Zach Wilson the playbook. He said, here you go, Zach, learn it. And then he says, oh, wait, Zach, here's a smaller book. It's not a playbook, but it's a book of all the million different adjustments that we have in our offense based on how the defense is aligned. So you need to learn these plays, and you need to learn this. Like, I don't know how the New York Jets did their install. Okay, but normally when you do install and you're learning a new playbook with a new coordinator, they're not throwing everything at you in the first session. All right, now I'm pretty sure in the NFL, it's way more complicated than what it ever was for me playing high school ball. But I'm pretty sure the process isn't all that different. It's way more advanced terminology and way more different things that you have to understand. But at the end of the day, no matter what level of ball you're playing, college, NFL, high school, a good coach always makes sure that his players understand their assignments. Because if you don't understand your assignments, if you don't understand the play, you can't be on the field. How can you make a play if you don't know what you're supposed to do? So for Zach Wilson, never really being able to understand the complicated offense that, you know, LaFleur is trying to run, and, you know, him not really, you know, being able to get a good grasp of, you know, the Jets offense, it didn't help his development because he never got comfortable. And it just was a complete disaster. Once Nathaniel Hackett got there, it completely went off the rails. Like, he played slightly better, but once it came out that he was scared to take over as a starting quarterback again after he got benched, it was wraps. His confidence was shot. And all the Jets did with Zach Wilson over the last couple of years, like, he had some maturity problems too. You know, like, you think somebody coming from BYU, you know, isn't that supposed to be like a religious school or something like that? You think he would be a well-mannered guy who was a hard worker, first guy in, last guy out, great leader. And he never was that. Yeah, I spent a lot of time talking about, how like his offensive coordinator failed him, but he also failed himself. There was a time when the New York Jazz had a little winning streak going on, but he wasn't a part of it. And this was back in 2022. And, he was coming off injury. He had a few games he missed because of injury. He came back. They kept winning, and people were rallying behind Zach Wilson. But Zach Wilson wasn't doing anything good. All he was a good game manager. And then when the New York Jets started getting put in situations that season in 2022 when they actually needed Zach Wilson to step up and make big time throws to win games, he was unable to do so. And that defense carried them for the majority of that season. But once the offense was in games when they had to be able to score points to keep up, Zach Wilson, he really got exposed in the worst way. Like, this dude couldn't process. He was inaccurate. I mean, Zach Wilson was terrible. He was terrible. And when you think about where he is now, possibly going to be back on the Jets next season, only because they refuse to cut him because nobody wants to trade for him, it just shows you how bad he is. I do believe that the coaching failed him to a certain extent. LaFleur having this complicated offense is definitely for a lot. Rookie quarterback coming into the league like Zach Wilson was going to be able to have to learn. And it wasn't going to be realistic to have to digest all that information in such a short amount of time. You're supposed to give a young quarterback information in small bunches so it can be easier for them to learn and consume the offense. But you're just throwing everything at Zach Wilson like he's a 10-year vet. You're treating Zach Wilson like he had the awareness and IQ of freaking Peyton Manning or somebody like that. So Zach Wilson now, he flamed out because, first of all, one of the biggest knocks that we had on Zach Wilson when he was coming out of BYU was that he didn't play well within structure, wasn't comfortable in the pocket, would easily bail out of pressure. You still see that, not that good of an athlete. And all those throws that he was making in college, yeah, that had me fooled. Barely see him making those throws in the NFL now. Trey Lance. Oh my goodness. You talk about one of the biggest busts in NFL draft history. Trey Lance, I believe he's up there with the Jamarcus Russells of the world because the 49ers gave up a lot to get this dude. They gave up 3 first-round picks to trade up with the Miami Dolphins to get this pick to select Trey Lance. And there were already a lot of red flags with Trey Lance coming out. He didn't have a lot of experience. Despite the small amount of success that he had at North Dakota State, he was fairly raw. And then during the whole COVID situation when he only played I believe only one game and it was televised on ESPN and he struggled in that game, that was a clear indicator that, we have a guy who may be hell of overrated. And the only thing that people really could sell you on with Trey Lance as a prospect was potential and athleticism. That was about it. Because when you looked at his film, everybody knew that the dude was insanely raw. The only thing that kind of made him really intriguing was that he had a really low touchdown or really high touchdown interception ratio. Like, he didn't have a lot of interceptions. And I thought that he could be somewhat decent because I'm like, bro, regardless of the inefficiencies that you may have in your mechanics, your throwing motion, your footwork, how is your touchdown interception ratio this good? Well, it turns out he actually should have thrown more interceptions than what was indicated on the stats. Good reason why you guys should check the tape, not the stats. I was young, I was a novice back then, and I wasn't doing what I'm doing now back then, and that's a large reason why I low-key bought into the Trey Lance hype. Because, the dude had a pretty good touchdown interception ratio. He had some pretty good measurables. I thought that he was a pretty good athlete. I didn't know that he would go to San Francisco and all of a sudden go from a good athlete in FCS to becoming a barely marginal athlete in the NFL. It's just crazy how Trey Lance, everything that people threw at you to sell you on Trey Lance, ended up being a detriment to his career. Like the athleticism wasn't there. He wasn't that good at going through progressions or his reads. I at least thought that him going to San Francisco would be a match made in heaven, because you're going to one of the best play callers, one of the best offensive minds of recent history. If you were to rank some of the best offensive play callers of the past decade, Kyle Shanahan would definitely be top 3. And when you have a good play caller, normally you would think that a young quarterback like Trey Lance going to a guy like Kyle Shanahan with a roster that, by the way, was good enough to win a Super Bowl would be able to have success. Great coach, great team around him. How can you not succeed in this? Honestly, how can you not succeed with the situation that Trey Lance walked into? The dude just wasn't that good. And then, Brock Purdy comes in, and despite not having no first team reps, no chemistry or rapport with the first team offense, he dominates against Miami and only goes on to become one of the NFL's most winningest quarterbacks since he's been the starting quarterback for San Francisco. And he was the last pick of the draft. And do you guys remember how last offseason you had the controversy between Lance and Purdy because people felt like Trey Lance deserved to be the starter because he wasn't giving a fair opportunity. He had a small sample size. He should be allowed to prove himself. Meanwhile, Brock Purdy was allowed to prove himself. It just never made any sense. And people are delusional because they fail to realize in the NFL, yeah, Trey Lance got injured and him missing the majority of his second season was, a huge hindrance to his development. But at the end of the day, though, it doesn't take you a ton of games to figure out how good a dude actually is. When I tried out for my middle school and high school team, it didn't take long to figure out the guys who could play and the guys who couldn't. And when you have a complex offense like Kyle Shanahan's, it definitely doesn't make things easier. But when a guy like Brock Purdy comes in, who's the last pick of the draft, and just outplays you by a landslide, it shows you're not good. And the 49ers weren't even willing to let this dude be the backup quarterback. They couldn't wait to trade this dude. They traded this dude to the Dallas Cowboys. Hell, the Dallas Cowboys, you probably could say they got robbed because they gave up a mid-round pick for Trey Lance, and Trey Lance probably would never touch the field as a starter for Dallas. And they're definitely not going to pick up his fifth-year option. You had somebody who just wasn't good. It's one of those situations that you see in the NBA pretty often. Guys who get drafted in the first round high, who just can't play in the NBA at all, like just are complete whiffs. That's Trey Lance. You normally don't see this bad of a miss in the first round. Like, we've had plenty of busts and plenty of guys who have been drafted in the first round before that haven't worked out, but there aren't too many that were as bad as Trey Lance. I mean, at least Johnny Manziel was able to win a game or two. You feel me? Like, I think there was a game Trey Lance started in for San Francisco where, like, I want to make sure I'm right on this. Give me a second. If I'm not mistaken, in one game he started to open the season, they lost to the Chicago Bears. I want to make sure I'm right on this. Y'all let me know in the comment section if I'm tripping, but if I'm not mistaken, the 49ers lost a game that Trey Lance started in, like his second season, to the Chicago Bears. I believe it was a Monday night, a Sunday night game. Oh, they don't have the game log. It makes no sense. Like, I could have swore Trey Lance, when he started for the 49ers in year 2, like, they lost to the Chicago Bears, bro. I want to make sure I'm accurate with that. Yeah, they lost to the Chicago Bears in his first game as the 49ers starting quarterback. Lance in San Francisco lost to Chicago 19-10 on a rainy day in Chicago. Like, bro, once I saw Trey Lance in that game, I knew the 49ers effed up. And you guys want to know what's so ironic? I feel like the 49ers have no choice but to pay Brock Purdy everything that he demands when it's time to come to the negotiating table on a long-term contract, because he really saved them, bro. He really did. What are the odds that you give up 3 first-round picks to draft Trey Lance, who is just a complete bust, can't even be a backup for you, third string in Dallas, and you get saved by the last pick of the draft? Like, if that's not a blessing from the football gods, I don't know what is. Which is why I get tired of people saying that the NFL is rigged. Like, some of this shit you cannot script. Like, the 49ers gave up the farm for Trey Lance. When you miss this bad on a quarterback in the first round, it's supposed to set your franchise back several years. Like, if it wasn't for Brock Purdy, bro, this decision to draft Trey Lance third overall would be talked about way more than what it is. Nobody talks about it that much. People just scoff over it all. They drafted Trey Lance. He saw it. Like, nobody really talks about it that much because they got Brock Purdy and the success that they continue to sustain. Excuse me. But if they were terrible, yeah, and Trey Lance was out there looking like Bryce Young, and yeah, everybody would be giving them way more criticism than what they get for this pick. Trey Lance, whew, talk about somebody who couldn't play. Justin Fields, my boy Justin Timothy Fields. Oh my God. You talk about the story of Justin Fields. He may have had the most interesting career arc of any quarterback from the 2021 draft class, man, because Chicago trades up for him. You trade up with New York to get him. Matt Nagy and their general manager at that time, they're on the hot seat. They're looking for a savior. You ever heard that song? I think it's by Skillet that goes, I need a hero to say. Yeah, like, that's how the Chicago Bears were looking at Justin Fields when they decided to draft him. And then he didn't initially start right away. I believe Andy Dalton was starting over him. And then you start Justin Fields, and I mean, you had some glimpses of what he could be if he could put it all together his first year, but you didn't really see too much. And then year 2, oh my goodness. You talk about a roller coaster ride, bro. Justin Fields in year 2 was absolutely phenomenal for my fantasy football team. It's the reason why Justin Fields will always have a lot of brownie points every time I talk about him. I'm always a little bit biased for Justin Fields, only because that 2022 season, he was, the second or third best quarterback in fantasy football? Bro, I was in a fantasy league where I won $1,000 thanks to Justin Fields' performance that year. So he will always have a lot of cool points with me in terms of how I view him. And he also got some MVP votes that year. He finished 9th in MVP voting in 2022. And there was a reason why the MVP hype for Justin Fields was so high last year. We seem to forget that there were a lot of people placing bets on Justin Fields to win MVP. There were people who thought Justin Fields in Chicago were going to be a playoff team last year due to them expecting him to take that next step, and it didn't happen. Why? Because he struggled as a passer. The big concern that many scouts and analysts had about Justin Fields coming out of Ohio State in 2021 was his ability to make full field reads and be able to go through his progressions. He didn't really do too much of that at Ohio State. Plus, he was blessed with playing with the best receiver room in college football those years. He goes to the NFL where the windows are smaller, the time that it takes to get the football out is sped up, and Justin Fields has struggled to adapt to the NFL when it comes to being able to throw the ball. We know that the dude is a great runner. He's a great athlete, but all those running back jokes that people make about Lamar Jackson, what we really should be saying them about Justin Fields, because he's a better runner right now than he is as a quarterback. And that's why now He is on the Pittsburgh Steelers. He's not good enough as a thrower to be a efficient quarterback when it comes to you winning games. If you want to be a playoff team, you got to have a quarterback who can throw the football effectively, especially late in the fourth quarter. Do you know that since 2021, Justin Fields has been the NFL's worst fourth quarter quarterback? He ranks last in fourth quarter completion percentage, leads the NFL in fourth quarter turnovers. It's funny how his best game of probably his career last year against the Denver Broncos, right? He balls out. But they still lost despite him having the best game of his career. How does that happen? He has a costly fumble in the interception in the fourth quarter. You can't make it up. Even on his best days, he still finds a way to lose in the fourth quarter. And that's the problem with Justin Fields. Like this dude is a really exciting quarterback to watch. He has some really electric plays that he makes. And he shows glimpses of what he could be if he puts it all together. The problem is, he's going into his fourth season, and we still don't know what Justin Fields is as a quarterback. Is he good? Is he not? Is he average? And a lot of people defend Justin Fields, and he's really polarizing. And that's why I say, the story and the career arc of Justin Fields has been like no other when you think about the other QBs that he was drafted along with. Because there are still people that tell you Justin Fields is good enough to be a starting quarterback in this league, even though he currently is a backup to an aging, regressing Russell Wilson. Justin Fields, I couldn't imagine, getting traded because a team is going to draft a younger quarterback that's never played the down because they perceive him to be better than you. Justin Fields still has a lot of potential, but that's the problem with Justin Fields. At this point in his career, he's more potential than he is proven production. And that's what gets coaches fired in the NFL, banking on potential. You see, if this was 2010 or 2002, Justin Fields would have 4 or 5 years to prove himself. But in today's NFL, you got 2 years to show these franchises how good you are. And if they're not convinced that you're the dude by your third season, it's wraps for you. And that's why Justin Fields is in Pittsburgh now. But I'm pretty confident he can reboot his career in Pittsburgh. All he got to do is beat out old man Russell Wilson, who people are gassing up so much, just so much. I'm going to talk about that on a later day. And then you got my boy, Mac Jones. Ooh, man, I thought Mac Jones to New England was just such a perfect pick. It just felt like it was destined to happen. And if you were keeping up with the 2021 NFL draft, you will understand with what I mean by that saying. Because think about it. Tom Brady, the greatest quarterback in NFL history, great pocket passer, accurate, great playing within structure, gets the ball out fast, high football IQ. He leaves New England, right? New England needs a quarterback. Mac Jones is the perfect Bill Belichick style quarterback. Plays well within structure, gets the ball out fast, has a high football IQ, really good processing, accurate in the short, intermediate ranges of the field, may not have the strongest arm, but it's all about accuracy and decision-making when it comes to Bill Belichick. We all felt like Mac Jones and New England and Bill Belichick were just the perfect marriage. And if it didn't happen, it would be shocking. So when Mac Jones actually got drafted by New England, I believe that the New England dynasty was going to continue. Like, we let Bill Belichick get what we could be perceiving as Tom Brady Jr., maybe? And the first season went really well. Like, that's the thing about Mac Jones' Patriots tenure that really irritates me, because people always look over the success that he had his first season. His first season, think about it. He came right in there out the gate. Mini camp outperformed Cam Newton. Cam Newton got cut. Like, cut. Because of how good Mac Jones was in mini camps and training camp when he first got to New England. That's how good Mac Jones was. His rookie season led them to the postseason. Imagine going from Tom Brady to Mac Jones, and in your first season, you're Bill Belichick. You have no Brady. He's in Tampa. You go to the postseason. You win 11 games with the rookie quarterback with this potential replacement, his potential successor. You have to be feeling damn good if you were Bill Belichick. You have to be having all the confidence in the world if you were Bill Belichick, man. It's like, bro, I just told the greatest quarterback of all time to kick rocks, and I replace him and make it to the postseason with the rookie quarterback? Like, are you kidding me? You can't tell me anything, and boy, you couldn't tell Bill Belichick anything, at least when it came to Mac Jones, because you see, the underrated aspect of Mac Jones' success was Josh McDaniels. Josh McDaniels takes that Las Vegas Raiders head coaching opportunity, and then everything, and when I say everything went left for New England and Mac Jones, everything went wrong for them, man. You know, Bill Belichick was feeling himself. He's like, yeah, like, I told the greatest quarterback, Tom Brady, to go kick rocks, and his successor in his rookie season led us to the postseason. Like, I know what I'm doing. And Bill Belichick was feeling himself so much. You know who he hired to be his offensive coordinator, to be part of Mac Jones' development going into his second season, the most crucial year for a quarterback in their development? If a quarterback doesn't show you that they're in year two, that pretty much is all she wrote. You know who Bill Belichick put that important responsibility in the hands of? He hired Matt Patricia to be his offensive coordinator. And as soon as Bill Belichick hired Matt Patricia to be his OC, that's when everything went wrong for Mac Jones. Matt Patricia never called any plays on offense before he received the Patriots offensive coordinator gig. The only experience Matt Patricia had on that side of the football was playing on the offensive line during his college days. So you have a novice coordinator who never called plays on that side of the ball, never really spent any time specializing on side of that ball, really, outside of being an assistant maybe. And you put him in charge of helping your young quarterback in year two make it to the next level. You just knew that was a plan for disaster. They had no wide receivers, fam. No wide receivers. No receivers, man. They gave this dude Devontae Adams. No, I'm tripping. They ain't giving Devontae Adams. They wish they gave it Devontae Adams. He wishes he got Devontae Adams. They gave him Devontae Parker. One of the NFL's worst receivers at creating separation. When you have a quarterback whose whole game is structured around getting the ball out fast and operating the quick passing game to high efficiency. There's a reason why Kyle Shanahan was banging the table for the 49ers to say, screw Trey Lance at 3. We want Mac Jones at 3. He's the perfect system quarterback. And how do you ruin a perfect system quarterback? Well, why are they called a system quarterback? Because they're only as good as the system. They're only as good as what they have around them. And as soon as what they have around them goes from good to awful, the coaching gets worse too, they get worse. Like I said earlier with Mac Jones, when things were going right, he was looking right. When things were going left, he got left in the end because he got traded to Jacksonville. His hometown, by the way, he grew up Bowles High School. You know, it's just a tragedy what happened to Mac Jones in New England. And I mostly put his downfall on Bill Belichick's decision to hire Matt Patricia as his offensive coordinator more than I put it or Mac Jones himself. Now, Mac Jones, he is responsible a good amount for his demise. Like, you got bench for Bailey Zappi, dog. That's embarrassing. And the highlight of Mac Jones' 2023 season was when he had that weird comeback that he led New England to against the Buffalo Bills early in the season. Outside of that, like, 2023 was damn near unwatchable for Mac Jones. And I ain't even gonna lie, like, I was really shocked at Mac Jones' personality. The real Mac Jones getting revealed. Like, he had a DUI incident at Alabama, but that's just young people stuff. You feel me? And even when he was playing for Bowls, like, you never really heard anything negative about Mac Jones from a personality standpoint. But then he gets to the NFL, and after Josh McDaniels leaves, this dude just becomes the omen. Like, his teammates did not like him. There were probably about only 2 or 3 players in that Patriots locker room that liked Mac Jones. It probably was Pop Douglas, since they both come from the 904 area, and maybe a couple of players on defense. Maybe the running back. That's about it. Like, the dude was nut-checking players. Like, one of his own teammates had to pull him aside during practice and say, hey, bro, like, it's not cool for you to be, messing with people's nuts during the games. Like, I remember there was a Monday night game when he just completely snapped on Matt Patricia, and he had every reason to. And he also went outside of the organization to get help, which really pissed off Bill Belichick. That really put him in the doghouse. I truthfully believe Bill Belichick wanted to move on from Mac Jones way before last year. Once he went outside the organization to get help, that's when Bill Belichick really soured over Mac Jones. And Bill Belichick's ineptness on offense to know how to draft and assemble a good squad around Mac Jones also led to his demise. But I didn't know that Mac Jones was a spoiled brat, or at least that's how he was going to carry himself in the NFL. I always thought that Mac Jones was a well-mannered kid that came from a uppity scale neighborhood, from a high-class family that always carried himself and handled himself with professionalism. He was a pro. He definitely was the guy that you wanted to have in the locker room because he was no nonsense. First guy in, last guy out. That was not the dude Mac Jones was. I was fooled, like, huh. And now he's with the Jacksonville Jaguars back in the hometown. Isn't that crazy? And what's even more funny is that I made a video before the 2021 draft saying that if the Jaguars were smart, they would pass on Trevor Lawrence, trade down, get more picks, use those picks to build a better team, and take Mac Jones in the process. And now they're both on the same team. But this is my thoughts on what happened to the 2021 first-round quarterbacks. This is the most overrated quarterback class in NFL history. And with the 2024 NFL draft only a few weeks away, I think that there's a great possibility that this 2024 class suffers the same fate. I mean, there's like 6 quarterbacks everybody thinks can be good. What analytics and history shows you is that most of these guys are going to be blessed. And the 2021 quarterback class is a prime example of what happens when you have a majorly overhyped quarterback class. Like, a lot of these dudes were not good. People said that this was going to be a generational class, and they were right. It was just generationally bad. Like, so many misses. Maybe Mac Jones can find a way to revitalize his career. I still think that he's a capable starter as long as he has a good team around him. Justin Fields, we don't know. Zach Wilson, Trey Lance, they suck. You got one great quarterback. You got 2 quarterbacks that are backups. And you got 2 quarterbacks that probably should be playing in the UFL right now. Looking back on the 2021 NFL quarterback class, man, what are your thoughts on this?